Perfect. So today, uh, the certification which you will be focusing on will be Pega Certified System Architect certification. Why? Because most of the jobs are on those lines. We logged into the Pega portal, and then we saw the Dev Studio, App Studio, Admin Studio, and Prediction Studio. Also, we understood different parts of the Dev Studio, right? We went through. Let me take you there again. We went through what a Dev Studio consists of, right? A header panel where you have few components. There is an Explorer panel and there is a footer panel, right? These are the three things we went through, and there is a work area where rules are created and modified. We understood these many things yesterday. Perfect. So now today let's try to see the next piece is installing the software. I will What I want to do for installation is I already have done the installation on my system. On one of your systems, I will help you install it. Over the class, we'll go through how to install it by choosing one of you, whoever is interested, who has a system with basic requirements, like you would need 4 GB RAM or at least 20 GB in your hard drive, right? With this requirement, if anyone has a system, we can go over that, and I will teach you how exactly you can install it also. So we'll go over it. Anyone can get nominated. You guys can tell me who wants to install it, and you can share your screen, and I'll teach you how exactly you can do it. I'll be sharing the software as well for whoever wants it, right? You can message me, and then I'll be giving you 8.7 personal edition software. I'll be sharing that with you. You can use that to install, and we'll be installing in one of the systems of anyone of who has joined right now. They can You can pick any one of you guys, and then we'll be going over every step of how to install it. Okay, that is pending. We'll do it in next class possibly. For today, we'll understand how to create application in Pega, right? Application creation in Pega. So first, before going here, let's understand what is the application which we are going to create, right? So for example, if I have to construct a home, what do I need first? Don't I need a base first? Base or basement, right? I will need a structure, right? Pillars, right? We need all this stuff to build a home. Yes or no? Do we agree? Right? So in the same way, to build an application, we will need a framework. A framework is very essential to build an application. Let's say, for learning purpose, what we will do, we will try to build application which is, let's say, an insurance application. We understand insurance, right? Why do we need insurance? For example, insurance is for health, you have insurance. For your property, you have insurance. For vehicle, you have insurance. Yes or no? Health, you get insurance. Property, you get insurance. Vehicle also, you get insurance, right? Yes or no? Why do we need this? Because, for example, if something happens, you won't be able to cover all the medical costs. So the insurance guys, because you're paying a premium, they will help you cover that. Property, for example, if there was a flood, like tsunami or something which happened, and then your house has some damage, you can claim that through this insurance. Vehicle, if there is any damage or some accident happened, very unfortunate, you can go and claim that through the insurance. That is why we need insurance. But these insurance companies needed application to, you know to for the users, so that they can apply for insurance policies, right? They need application to apply for insurance policies, right? How does it look like? You can take anything. For example, if you see here, let's say, um, Progressive is one insurance company which has, which will help you for car insurance, like, this is one of the insurance companies. And if you open, see, they do have application. What they are asking you, there is a user interface they have, and then they are asking you, what is that you have product. See, If it is auto or car or whatever it is, for example, if I am saying auto, right? Auto means just only your car, and if there is a property you can tell, and then you can tell a zip code, and then it will help you get a quote in the sense for your car or anything. See, there is an application already existing like this for one of the insurance companies. See, it is asking you your first name, last name, these details to build a quote. We'll be building an application like this. See, what does it have? It starts from here, start, where you give all your details, vehicles, how many vehicles you want to cover, who all are the drivers. For example, you and your wife are going to drive the vehicle, then you have to add the drivers, final details, what all is going to be covered, what are the rates. Makes sense? Simple enough. Let's say if I have to do this, right, I gave some details here, and then if I start my code, let's say 7, right, and then date of birth is something, 6/27/1992. Okay, I can start my code like this. If you see, there is a flow it is having. It is taking me through some flow, right? It's telling me, okay, you start here, give these details, and I will help you map the other things. See, now it came here. It is telling me add the vehicle, what vehicle you have. For example, if you don't know the VIN, you can choose the year. For example, if I have 2022 and I have, let's say, a BMW, it's a 5 series, right? I can pick these details, and then it's asking me these details are getting popped up here. How is this happening? Don't you think this is one of the insurance applications which is existing? We try to build something similar to this, right? Let's try to build something which is similar to this. I'm showing this to you just to give you an understanding of what an enterprise application looks like. What should we expect when we try to build an application? There is a flow. A user knows where exactly he is on the screen. For example, he knows that he's on the vehicles page because he is here. The start screen is something which is already completed. That's why you see this breadcrumb. He knows that he is here. Once he completes that, he moves here. These are the different fields, right, which are getting populated. We can plan to build something similar to this, right? We can build something like this, and whenever any user comes and tries to log in and builds something like this, they should be able to have a application which shows all these details. Let's try to build something like this. Having said this, I'm assuming that you are understanding what an enterprise application looks like. Application, for example, this is a insurance app. They do have something over phone also which you can install and you can do. We can try to mimic exactly similar uh, approach in our application also. We'll see that how it has to be done. But today's our focus is understanding how application is created inside Pega. So insurance is a sector we are targeting to build application in. Perfect. So we saw a auto insurance application which is progressive. This is how it looks like. It has a start stage where you add all these details, and then there's a vehicles, what all vehicles you want, who all will be the drivers, and details like that. Perfect. Perfect. So what we understand also is, for example, if we know Reliance, right? Let's go take Reliance as example. Reliance is something which you are aware of. Is a organization, right? Reliance is an organization. Perfect. But Reliance also has Geo, right? Telecom sector. They also have Reliance Trends in clothing sector. They also have uh, petroleum. Like this, they do have different. Can I call these as divisions? Right, these are divisions, right? They have spread across different divisions. One is Geo, they have Reliance Trend, they have Reliance Petroleum, like that. These are divisions, different divisions under which Reliance organization has spread across its business. And Geo is present in almost most of the states, right? Also Trends is present in most of the states. For example, something which is available, let's say I come from Mysore, so Mysore store is will be called as the Mysore unit, right? Mysore unit. For example, if I have to book something from the Mysore, uh, I want to book Adidas T-shirt from Reliance Trends in Mysore, then the structure is something like this, right? Reliance and Trends and the Mysore store, right? Can I call this organization, org division and unit? I can call this like this, right? This is organization, this is a division, and this is a unit. Perfect. Do you understand this? Perfect. So every application can have, you know, a framework. What is a framework? For example, who is the boss for Reliance Trends? Mukesh Ambani, right? Who is the boss for Jio? That's also Mukesh Ambani. So the owner for this particular organization is going to be same, right? Yes or no? Right? So a framework is a place where you define common functionalities, and these are functionalities which will be, this is done to promote reuse. We'll see what does this mean in future. Okay, in some time I'll show you what does this mean. Okay, let's try to create application and check, right? So we discussed this. Okay, we are going to do this and stuff like that. Let's try to create application in Pega. Now that we understand how does a enterprise app look like, let's try to create application inside Pega and see what does Pega have to offer in terms of application. So as usual, when you log in, you come to Dev Studio. Dev Studio is a place where any developer would log in and try to perform any of his changes, right? Any of his changes he will be trying to do only in Dev Studio. Perfect. Okay, that's good. So now let's try to see how to build an application within Pega. With that background, I came into Pega, and then to create an application I will have a approach here. What is that? If you see on the header, header bar, there is an option called application, under which you are seeing Pega platform. What is this? This is something which Pega has given you. When the product is shipped to you, this thing comes by default as part of the product, the Pega platform. On top of this, you will be building your application. On top of the Pega platform, you will be building the application. So you can also tell this is like the base to build your application. You can also call it's like a framework on top of which you are trying to build something. I will tell you how exactly this is true. Okay. Now, as soon as we log in, there is a header bar. From the header bar, from the application, if you try to click on this drop down, I'm showing you again. See, click on this drop down, you get an option to create a new application. Are you able to understand this? You log in, you come into Dev Studio, and from this option you can click here and you will see an option to create a new application. I clicked that. Yes, okay. I see some question. That's okay. At the end of the session, I'll take that, but I'll tell the answer as well. So as soon as we log in, we'll see I just clicked on new application and it is loading. Perfect. So now when I clicked on new application, this is what Pega is offering me. What is it telling? What type of application do you want to build? Right? Most of the part is trying to read and understand on the user interface. Is this really challenging to understand? It is asking you what type of application do you want to build, and then it is telling build from scratch or create application Pega intelligent automation app from scratch is what you want to do, or you want to search for any existing case types. So we don't have any of that. So we want to create a from scratch application. Okay, from scratch application is what we are trying to build here. Let me click on continue here. Right, and then here it is telling this is more to do with user interface. What sort of user interface do you want? This is the most latest one, but we'll be using this because this does have a few bugs which are getting still fixed. So we'll be using the traditional Cosmos theme approach. Okay, let me click select here. We came into the developer studio, chose from this drop down a new application. It gave us, do you want to build it from scratch? We told yes, and then we are choosing what sort of theme we want. Now it is asking me what should be the application name, right? Like Reliance, if they have to build application for themselves, they'll be calling their application name as Reliance, right? Same thing is true for Progressive. Let's say we are trying to build a insurance application which is called as Alpha. Okay, let's call our application name as Alpha. You can click here on advanced configuration, right? And just to see what exactly it has to offer, you can just click on create and it will create it. But I just want to show you what does this advanced configuration have. See, here it is telling some advanced configuration settings. See, there is something called as framework or implementation. What sort of application are you trying to create here is what it is asking, right? And the organization name by default, Pega has selected something weird, doesn't make sense actually what it is giving me there. Yes or no? Right, but I want my organization name to be something easily understandable. What sort of application is this? This is insurance application, right? So let me call it Alpha Insure because it doesn't take the entire name because there is a limit for characters. So I'll call it Alpha Insurance, and the organization name, I don't want this thing. I want this. Okay, I'll call this as Alpha. Okay, and this name also I want to change it, and I want to call it Alpha. By default, what Pega did was when we are trying to create an application, it told this is an implementation application, and it is telling, hey, the name was something weird which it automatically chose, which I don't agree with. I don't want that name. I want Alpha as the name, right? And the application name also is something which we changed here. Yes or no? Right? We called it Alpha Insurance, and then we call the organization name as Alpha. right? Alpha insurance application. And then this has to be a framework. I will tell you why. There is something called as framework and there is something called as implementation. Implementation, you can imagine framework is nothing but a basement, a base which you try to when you try to build any construction, there will be a base which you will do, right? You will dig and first put a base. That is something called as a framework, on top of which you can build. For example, if you want single floor, you can build single floor. If you want to build 2 floors, you can build 2 floors. If you want to make 4 floors, you can do that also. Depending upon what customization you want, you can do it on top of that framework. Yes or no? Do we agree? Are you able to understand what is a framework here, everyone? Okay, perfect, very good. So to understand framework, we need to look at it from a realistic perspective. One approach which I feel like easily understandable is where you try to build a construction. For example, you have a site to build any. For example, you want to build a 2 bhk, and then on top of which you want to build a single bhk. How will you do it? To do anything, you need a base. Yes or no? You need a base. A base has to be dug, and you need to put up a base. Similarly, to build any application in IT, in software, you will need a framework to do that. What is the framework? It is as good as a base, which will act as a base. To understand it much further, when we go in detail, while we try to create other aspects with respect to application, we'll be able to understand that in a much better way. For now, understand that this is a base on top of which you'll be building everything. Make sense? For example, let's say in Reliance, if you see, the owner is going to be Mukesh Ambani, irrespective you go from Trends, irrespective you go from Geo, irrespective you go from Reliance Petroleum. Who is going to be the owner of the organization? Is it going to change for any of these other businesses? No, it is something which is constant. Same thing is true when you try to build something on top of a basement, right? Is the basement going to be different when you try to build a fifth floor? No, the basement is same. On top of that only you are building more constructions on top of it. So framework is something like that. This is more like a small understanding, but when we try to build it, you will understand that, oh, okay, this is what he meant when he was saying like that. Okay, so now we did necessary changes. Do we see the organization, division, and unit part which we saw in the example here? Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay, perfect. So if you remember, for Reliance, we did the organization, division, and unit part. Similarly, if you see, Pega is also offering us something like that. Alpha is the organization name, division name I have kept as div itself, and there is a unit. If you see the structure, the class structure, it is coming like this. We'll see this also in detail. Just understand that to create application, this is the approach we are going to take. Perfect. Are we on same page now? What you're going to understand from this session is how do we create a application in Pega. That's the takeaway from here. What is this uh, framework? What is this class structure and all? Don't worry about that. The only takeaway I want you to take from this class today is how do we create application Pega. If after this class you should be able to understand how application is created. So what we came here, we told create a new application, came here, and then we gave the application name. We told choose from scratch, we chose theme Cosmos, and then we told Alpha Insurance application, came to advanced configurations, and then we gave these details, right? Pega had some random characters there. We modified that and told, okay, we don't want that. We want something specific to my application. Yes or no? Are you able to understand? I'll give you a minute just to contemplate or think over what we have done. If you have any questions, I can answer them now before I move further. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to. So we have created a framework here, right? A framework application is what we created. I'll do save and I'll give this create application. How can we again revisit this? Of course, I'll be recording this and I'll be posting it on YouTube. You can revisit this when you try to create. You can come here, check what is being done, and then you can understand in a much better way, right? You can do that. Now, once the application is created, for example, when you use Facebook, don't you need a user? For example, you should sign up to that particular application to be able to use, right? Yes or no? Same thing is true for WhatsApp. Your number is being assigned and you get a certain code on your number so that that user is created. In the same way for this application, insurance application also, you need a user, right? And typically any application has an administrator. Administrator is someone who has all the rights, rights to do anything in the application. And second thing is there'll be a developer, there'll be a user, stuff like that. For now, we'll try to create a administrator so that we can access this application. To Alpha Insurance, I will create something called as admin at Alpha. Okay, Cosmos Authors, and I'll do add. What this will do, this will create a user and it shows me a password here. Okay, let me note this password. Okay, let me note this password. Actually, let me take this entire thing, copy this entire, right? What it created application and also gave me a user who I can use to. Perfect. It tells me okay, user is created. Now it is telling me what you can do. You can log off and log in and you will be able to see your application. Just remember one thing here. Now we are done, right? I'll click done and I'll log off in some time from this instance. But if you see right now the application instance, it is showing as Pega platform. Remember this. When you logged in with administrator at pega.com, the default thing it was showing was Pega application, right? Pega platform. Just remember this. Okay, remember this. And then let's try to log off. Right. What did we choose as my this thing? Admin at alpha, and then let me copy the password from here. Right. And I come here. Let me log in. Admin at alpha. Okay, that's fine. It sometimes acts like that. That is because why is this acting like this? Admin at alpha. Perfect. So okay, so it let me go through maybe because I didn't use the caps. Okay, never. So let me change the password. The default password usually anyone chooses is rules. Any application usually when you go inside, when you try to access any application, you can give rules with normal this thing and then it should open. So I'm using the rules as my password. Change password. Okay. First thing to notice here is, what is the application now? Right? Is it what we created? Right? Yes or no? We created this application. Now let's switch to, where does a developer do his job? Dev Studio. Perfect. Very good. So we remember that, which is a good sign. Not everyone is sleeping. That's nice. Perfect. Now can you tell me what is the application which is being pointed at? Is it Alpha Insurance app which we created? Yes or no? Perfect. So now it also tells you that, hey, application version 0.1.0.1 Alpha Insurance application. Yes. Now let us, what we created was a framework application, in the sense like a base on top of which we want to build something interesting, right? Yes or no? So how will I create a new application? How can I create a new application? What should I do to create a new application? Right? I have to come into this thing and click on this drop down and choose new application. If you remember last time when we did this, we created from scratch, right? Yes or no? But now we don't have to do that. You know why? Because I have my base application created, right? Very good. So there is a framework which is already existing for me, on top of which I can create this application. Let me choose this, right? Use this application. You can click on continue, and then it will tell me build with Alpha Insurance application. What this means is, on top of Alpha Insurance, you want to build an application. So no, let me click. So are there any existing case types? No, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Uh, Continue. Any data types links, I don't know. So what type of application are we building? Let's say we saw progressive, right? Progressive was a auto insurance sort of a application. Let's try to build something similar to that, right? Let's say this is Alpha Auto Insurance application. Make sense? Perfect. Like in the previous one, let's also try to see what does the advanced configuration have when we are trying to build it. You see now the name of the application is Alpha Auto, because this is a new application we are building on top of Alpha Insurance, right? Yes or no? Perfect. Notice the organization name. It's Alpha, right? Under Reliance, you are having all those trends as well as everything. Under Alpha Insurance, under the Alpha organization, Alpha Auto is also a part of Alpha Insurance. In the same way, when I have to have healthcare, can't I create a Alpha healthcare insurance application? Yes or no? Right? Perfect. So just remember this and we'll note it down also. No, that's fine. Alpha Auto. So let me. So the very important thing which you have to notice here is the application structure type. Framework we already had. So we are going to build an implementation, in the sense we are building our first floor on top of the basement. What is my basement? My basement is Alpha Insure is my basement, right? On top of which I am building my first floor, or my building, whatever I am trying to build. That's the implementation. That's why we called it as implementation. Implementation is a name, another name to bear for something which you build on top of a framework, on top of a base. Whatever you build is called an implementation. Do we agree? Perfect. So I'll give save, and I'll give create application. See, now it is telling application was created, and I do have a user already. I can use the same user, admin at alpha, and then I can log in into both of these applications. But do we understand how a framework and an implementation application can be created? Yes or no? Perfect. So let me go to app. Let me mark it done. First, right, and then log off. Perfect. I logged off, and let me log in into. See, now let me switch to Dev Studio. Perfect. So what do we see here now? We see that we are in alpha insurance application. We are pointing to alpha insurance application, and now we want to see what is on auto insurance. To do that, we have to move to my auto insurance application. How can I do it? Under the new application button, there is another link which tells switch applications. So this is my framework. If you see, this dot tells me that right now I am pointing on this application. To switch from there, what I will do, I'll move using alpha auto insurance application. Now you will see that I'll be pointing to alpha auto insurance. Yes or no? Perfect. So to switch between applications, you will be using that toggle. It makes sense? Perfect. So what did we do? We were able to successfully create a framework application, on top of which we also created a implementation application. Yes, right. So if we try to understand the structure, for example, the organization, division, and unit is something which we understood, right? For alpha auto, so for alpha insurance, we understood the organization structure and unit. In the same way, for this thing also, we were able to build. So in this, whatever we built today, the implementation application, right? It was alpha was the organization, alpha auto insurance was corresponding to alpha auto, right? It created alpha auto for this. In the similar way, for example, if I was going to call it as, if I had Bajaj as my base application, then Bajaj Auto Insurance would look like something like this, right? Bajaj Auto Insurance would look something like Bajaj Auto. Do you agree? Right? Similarly, any organization you have, it will look like this. So if you see, Alpha Auto is one such application which we have created. What is the organization name of our application? Very good. Alpha is the organization name. Alpha is the organization name, and the base application's name is Alpha Insurance, on top of which we have built something called as Alpha Auto, right? Alpha Auto, right? Which is built on top of Alpha Insurance. Do we agree? Yes? No? Perfect. Very good. Very good. So the takeaway from today's understanding is how exactly application is created in Pega. I hope we were able to achieve that. Now let's try to see this Explorer, right? The left panel is the Explorer. Under that Explorer there is something called as App, right? And when I click on that, you will see something called as alpha auto hyphen work. This was something like a class structure which got created when we tried to create the application. It was showing us as class structure. I told you just look at it, don't worry about it, right? We just saw that. So to understand in a much better way, the application name for our application is Alpha Auto, the implementation application. Are we able to see that here? Alpha Auto. Very good. Which is built on top of Alpha Insurance. Let's try to drill down. Let's see what is Alpha Insurance built on, right? I can click here and I can go down to see what is Alpha Insurance built on, right? Did we choose theme Cosmos in the initial stage when we're trying to build? Let's see what theme Cosmos is built on. See, does it tell Pega rules? Perfect. Let's try to open this Pega rules. No. So what we understand from this thing is this is the base for everything. On top of Pegasus, there was Theme Cosmos. On top of Theme Cosmos, you have built your Alpha Insurance application, which is your base application, right? On top of Alpha Insurance, you have built Alpha Auto. Do we understand that? Everyone here, like, if you have any doubts, I want to clarify that. This is a platform. Pega is a platform we are using to build any application. That is why you see this here, Pega roots, on top of which there is something called as a theme, Cosmos, on top of which you have something called as Alpha Insurance, and on top of which you have Alpha Auto, which was created. Do we agree? Yes, perfect. The only takeaway from today's class is how to build an application in Pega. How do we do that? We come inside Pega, we click on this drop down, create new application. From there, we create application. You can create two types of applications. What are those? One is a framework application, another one is a implementation application. Today, we created a framework called Alpha Insurance, right? And on top of this, we built something called as Alpha Auto. Auto is nothing but anything to do with cars, right? That is auto insurance. Didn't we see that as part of Progressive's example, how auto insurance is obtained? I choose a car and then I can tell different aspects. When I keep going, it will show me certain details, and in the end, I'll be able to choose a policy. Yes or no? Perfect. So today's class was more to understand how exactly the application is created. There are more details to it with respect to what should be the number of characters on the name of the application and stuff, but don't worry about that. You won't be doing anything with respect to that, but when you try to create, try to test out and see how many characters does this accept and stuff like that, which is not too important. Just for understanding, you can try to see, but this is a simple way of how you can create an application from scratch. This is an enterprise application we are trying to build. As part of this particular exercise, we will be building an insurance application which will help to get auto insurance for most of the vehicles. We will be able to build auto insurance application which can be used to obtain insurance, like pretty similar to what Progressive has here. Does it sound interesting? Something which you guys will want to do? Yes, no? I would say like today this is good for today, and if you guys have any questions, I can take them. Yes, yes, of course. Uh, it is more to do with what you define at that layer. For it's like asking me, if you are building a third floor, is there a link between a third floor and the basement which we have put? Of course, yes, right? Because it is supporting, the basement is supporting, either you have third floor or fifth floor. The basement does support it, right? They say, okay, this is a pillar construction. What do they mean when they say pillar construction? In the sense, the basement is strong enough to support much more layers on top of whatever you have built. If someone asks you how is basement linked to fifth floor, why are we even worried? You will be like, oh, don't you understand that? Because that is a base on top of which all these floors are standing. That basement is the foundation which is holding all these floors. Do you get an understanding? Right? So perfect. Okay, so I can show that. That is a really good question. How did we link that, right? So when, if you remember, when we are trying to create an application, when I was trying to create a new application, it asked me, Pega told me, hey, do you want to build from scratch, which we did when we built the new application, or you want to build on top of this application which is already built? Do you remember we creating this application in the starting, Alpha Insurance application as the framework? Right? So this is where Pega is linking those. This is where it is telling, hey, use this as base and build your application is what it is telling. Pega is offering you and telling, hey, is this a separate site or is this a building on, is this the basement on top of which you want to build? You have to look at it that way. Does it make sense? Application, base application, yeah. The first insurance application, scratch, very good. Exactly. Perfect. That's what it is. Any other questions? So if this class interests you and you want to continue further, I would want you to respond to me on WhatsApp on this number so that I can create a group and then I can send you a notification on a unified fashion. I won't be able to like reach out one on one so that I can add